Dorian.
Dorian's destruction, the monster hurricane on the move causing catastrophic damage, killing at least 5 people. A path of total devastation as the Bahamas are still being hit hard this morning by the biggest storm ever to make landfall there.
We are in the midst of a historic tragedy.
The airport underwater, and our team right there.
Swim!
As people are saved from the flood, the U.S. Coast Guard swooping in, rescuing and evacuating victims. Now millions across the East Coast are on alert. States of emergency declared from Florida all the way to Virginia. Evacuations underway. Ginger and our team with the very latest on Dorian's track.
The death toll climbs from this horrific fire in the middle of the night. 34 passengers trapped on board.
I can't breathe.
The Good Samaritans who rescued the crew are now telling their story on GMA.
New details in that deadly Texas highway rampage. The gunman's phone call to the FBI just before the shooting. And questions now about how he got that firearm.
Panic at the airport overnight, a false alarm sending passengers at Newark fleeing onto the tarmac. The confrontation that sparked it all.
Kevin Hart's recovery. His wife now speaking out, the latest on the comedian's condition after that serious car accident over the weekend.
And Hurricane Hero, the woman opening up her home to this, how she wound up sheltering nearly 100 dogs from the worst storm in a lifetime.
Live in Times Square, this is Good Morning America.
And it's good to have everyone here as we kick off a very busy Tuesday morning. We want to get right to Hurricane Dorian, inching closer to the U.S. mainland. Take a look at the satellite showing where the storm is at this hour. It is huge, and it's still pounding the Bahamas before moving north.
Hurricane conditions possible along Florida's coast as early as this afternoon. The Carolinas under even more threat. And take a look at the power this storm is packing. That is the second story of a home right there in the Bahamas. You see the waves lapping up, slamming that house.
And as that storm heads for the East Coast, states of emergency have been declared in 5 states from Florida to Virginia. At this hour, Hurricane Dorian is a Category 3 storm with 120-mile-per-hour winds. We have team coverage all across the storm zone, and Ginger starts us off from Jupiter, Florida. Good morning, Ginger.
Good morning, Michael. We've already seen a gust just south of us here to 61 miles per hour this morning, not because the hurricane's any closer, because it hasn't moved, but because the wind field has expanded. I'll explain all of this, but it's still about 100 miles east to southeast of me, just parked over Grand Bahama. You can see on the satellite that 48 hours of torture that the Bahamas have gone through, that clear eye for nearly a full. And then it starts to close up. It starts to weaken a bit, but still battering the islands. Now, what we've felt here so far has felt like tropical storm force gusts. And we hope that this path sticks. It looks like it'll turn north later today. Still anticipated to do so. Through tomorrow, you'll feel the impacts of tropical storm force, at worst hurricane force along the coast of Florida. But South Carolina and North Carolina could have a very close call when it comes to wind speeds and storm surge later this week. So the worst part of the storm is staying out over the ocean. With this, we could see close to 70-mile-per-hour gusts today into tomorrow through the coast of Florida. But again, close to even 77-mile-per-hour gusts up in South and North Carolina with piling of water and eventually more rainfall up there. Those could be big issues. Guys, this looks so similar to Matthew. I will explain that coming up in a bit. But a lot of people asking me, how does this happen? Well, you have that steering ridge that kind of broke down. And you say, how is it going to move? You have that trough. That's going to allow it to move off to the north and east. So we'll be watching this track as we go through the rest of the week. George.
Okay, Ginger, because that storm did move, it left so much devastation across the Bahamas. 5 people killed, at least 5 people killed. It slammed the islands for nearly 48 hours. And our Marcus Moore has been reporting from the island under treacherous conditions.
Swim! Swim! Swim!
Watch as the dangerous floodwaters sweep these 4 people away. In a race against time, our team is there, and my producer urging them to swim for their lives until they reach safety on higher ground. The group rushing to a shelter in the eye of the storm, racing to safety before the dangerous winds return.
Follow me, take your time.
Scenes like this undoubtedly playing out across the Bahamas in the wake of deadly Hurricane Dorian.
devastation here is breathtaking. You can see that building behind me. It has collapsed, and look at this yacht on the ground resting up against this condo.
That's the front porch. The water is about 6 feet.
The rising floodwaters pouring into people's homes. This video showing the water breaching a second-floor apartment, creeping up the stairs and slamming into the window. The water so high, only rooftops were visible. And in this home, the floodwaters coming up the stairs, the furniture bobbing in the water. Ezra King and his cousin have been using a bulldozer to rescue people from their homes and take them to shelters. Category 5 storms shredding home after home. The Salvation Army estimating up to 13,000 have either been damaged or destroyed. The Coast Guard sending helicopters to rescue about a dozen people. WPLG reporter Janice Fernandez describing the apocalyptic scene.
But it truly does. It looks like a bomb just went off. Mother Nature is so much more powerful than I could ever imagine.
Rescuers receiving thousands of distress calls, but the floodwaters too dangerous to traverse.
It is extremely dangerous. I've never seen anything like this before in my entire life.
The Freeport, Bahamas airport submerged. Residents returning to what's left of their community, now covered in debris for as far as the eye can see. Boats and cars littering the street, now a familiar scene.
And you can see the power of this storm. Trees have been snapped, this boat left on its top. Just absolutely incredible damage.
Officials telling residents to stay indoors, keep hammers ready in case they have to escape the attic.
And Marcus joins us now by satellite phone. Marcus, we could see just how devastating Dorian is as you were reporting from the scene. So what are the conditions like right now?
Well, George, you heard Ginger talking about how this has been 48 hours of intense and extreme weather. And as I speak to you right now, I'm feeling a very strong wind gust. It just is not letting up. And when you talk to residents, people who have sought shelter in some of the buildings here, they've been asking me, where's the storm? Is it coming back? And I have to tell them, no, it's slowly moving to the north. They're just, George, ready for this storm to move on so they can begin to try to put their lives back together. But I've got to tell you, it is absolutely catastrophic. I have never seen destruction like this on this scale on an island before.
Well, we could see that. Okay, Marcus, stay safe. Robin?
All right, George, thank you. And joining us now over the phone from Freeport, Bahamas is Hiram Lewis. He is a member of Parliament. And first of all, Mr. Lewis, how are you doing this morning, sir?
Right now, it's scary. This is Good Morning America, but I wish I could say Good Morning Bahamas, but that is really not the case. Right now, thank God for life, but there's so many unknowns right now because it's dark, the communication is down. We do not know what is going on right now, so we're praying that once it breaks, we can get out there and do a proper assessment and rescue whoever is still out there that needs to be rescued. So I'm sure we're going to have to go into recovery and rescue mode as soon as possible.
Yes, sir. I know that there were so many calls that have been going out, especially yesterday as well, and those efforts had to be largely called off because of the ongoing poor conditions. Is it any better today? Do you think that the rescue crews will be able to go out today?
Yes, the wind has abated a bit, and we are hoping that the water has subsided, it's gone down. There are reports that the water was going down a bit at around 9:30 last night. However, there was high tide in between then and now, so we still do not know. But to answer your questions, just listening outside right now, the wind is still howling, but it is much better than it was yesterday. So we're hoping that this hurricane continues to drift west, northwest, or anywhere north of us, so that once they break, we will be able to get the rescue teams out there and do as much as we can to help people out.
You mentioned the flooding, and your colleague, the Minister of Agriculture, posted video from inside of his home with the rising water inside and outside as well. Have you ever seen anything like this, Mr. Lewis?
Never seen anything like this in my life. Never seen anything like this. The water was rising. He and his wife and his young daughter, they had stuck inside. They went up to the dormer space, and I was giving them advice on what to do. Whatever flotation device we could find, tie it all together, families to stay together, and just God be with them and keep them safe.
Yes, sir.
But as it is right now, I could not communicate with him, so I do not know what is going on right now with him. But I can say conditions have improved weather-wise, and we're hoping that we can do as much as we can to help as many as we can, as soon as we can.
Oh, bless you, sir. I'm glad the conditions are improving, and thank you so much for your time this morning, and just know that our hearts go out to everyone that is there. Thank you, sir, so much. You please take care.
We appreciate you, Robin. We appreciate you, America. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, sir. I mean, this storm has just been relentless.
They're going to need so much help down
there. They do.
They're devastating images as well. And here in the U.S., millions are bracing for Dorian to move in. Its effects are already being felt in Florida. More than 1 million people across the Southeast have been told to evacuate. Gio Benitez is in New Smyrna Beach. And Gio, it's a virtual ghost town there.
It really is, Michael. We aren't even on the beach side. We are further inland, and just take a look. Business after business is closed here. So many people just boarding up. We have one restaurant open here, so many people are just taking no chances here. Take a look. This morning, a rush to get out. More than 2 million people ordered to evacuate.
If you're in a mandatory, you just have to get out.
Hurricane Dorian threatening almost 1,000 miles of coastline from Palm Beach, Florida, all the way up to North Carolina's Outer Banks. Despite the warnings, not all have evacuated just yet. This man venturing out to test the waters in Palm Beach and wiping out from the massive waves. Even before the storm has hit, treacherous waves causing boats to sink off the Florida coast. Those who have left abandoning homes and businesses. Business after business is just boarded up. People are listening to those warnings. It's pretty much a ghost town. Florida officials say the Category 3 storm has forced 7 hospitals and 72 nursing homes to evacuate. Several airports in Florida completely shutting down. More than 1,000 flights canceled. In parts of South Carolina, highways turning into one-way roads as residents flee. For those who have decided to ride out the storm, a flurry of last-minute preparations. Our Steve Osunsami is in Charleston.
So many families here deciding that they're going to stay put. They're getting their sandbags ready to keep the water out.
And as you know, of course, so many people come to Central Florida for the theme parks. We know Disney World will be open, closing today at 3 p.m. SeaWorld, Legoland, both of them will be closed today. And we also know that Walmart will be closing 50 stores today, possibly even more, as this thing gets closer. But a lot of people just taking this very seriously, Robin.
As they should. Everybody stay safe, Gio. Thank you. We'll be tracking Hurricane Dorian all morning long, but now we're going to turn to the morning's other major story.
National Hurricane Center at 8 o'clock. It's on the move again, but at a snail's pace. 120-mile-per-hour winds. It's moving northwest at just 1 mile per hour, but hopefully that means it's starting to get going. Hurricane warnings now stretching from the central Georgia coast all the way down to just north of Miami. And then as you move inland, tropical storm warnings and watches. The path, it's by early tomorrow morning, it's just outside of Melbourne, then Jacksonville by Wednesday afternoon, and then continues up towards Charleston as we get through Thursday, Cape Hatteras by Friday morning, and then out into the Atlantic finally and moving away. We're looking at damaging winds possible right along the coast. Some of the models bringing it closer to the coast, and so we could see damaging winds, power outages, storm surge as well, 4 to 7 feet in some spots, 3 to 5 feet as you get further south, 2 to 4 feet as we go even a little further south, and then rainfall amounts anywhere from 5 to 7 inches from Melbourne up to Norfolk, although we could see isolated amounts of about 15 inches as well. That's what's going on around the country. Here's what's happening in your neck of the woods.
Al, thanks. Good morning. I'm Storm Team 4 meteorologist Maria LaRosa. It's a great morning temperature, right about 68 degrees in Central Park as we take a look at Manhattan. Beautiful sunshine so far, so good. Peekskill at 63 degrees, Long Branch at 71. We're headed up to 81 degrees, a delightful day. Less humid than yesterday, but we'll see that humidity come back up tomorrow ahead of a chance for showers and thunderstorms. We'll keep an eye on outward effects of Dorian for us Thursday into Friday, but a great looking weekend ahead.
Latest weather. Don't forget you can catch us on Today's Show Radio, Sirius XM Channel 108, Off the Rails with Dylan Chanel, and yours truly at 1 today.
That's a great program.
Awesome. All right, Al, thank you. Something I've been saying around.
The new images coming in, the total devastation, the death toll growing tonight. Apocalyptic scenes, cars floating, families trying to get out of their homes, filling with water, with their dogs in chest-high water. Thousands of homes destroyed tonight, and our team is there. The new concerns here in the U.S., the new track out tonight, the hurricane growing in size. And now parts of the track bringing it closer to the coast than before. We'll tell you where. As the outer bands now slam the Florida coast, more than 1 million people under evacuations up through the Carolinas. And now hospital evacuations to prepare as well. Ginger timing it out tonight. What happened inside that boat engulfed in flames in the middle of the night? 34 passengers presumed dead, trapped below deck. Authorities now say the stairs and the emergency hatch blocked by the fire. After yet another deadly mass shooting in America tonight, the major decision by Walmart. They will stop selling ammunition for handguns and bullets that can be used in assault weapons. The NRA tonight calling it shameful. 2 major rescues, the truck driver pulled alive from a burning tanker veering off a 40-foot overpass. And the bus crash, firefighters pulling school children out through the windows. And Olympic star Simone Biles tonight breaking her silence on her brother, who is now charged in 3 murders. What she's now saying.
This is ABC World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening, and it's great to have you with us here on a Tuesday night. Millions of Americans back to work after Labor Day, but for millions of others, they are holding out hope tonight that this hurricane stays on the current track, hugging the coastline as it moves north. Now dangerously close to Florida tonight, unclear if it will make landfall at some point later in the week. What we do know tonight, the damage in the Bahamas. Authorities are calling it historic and unprecedented. Take a look. New images this evening of the hurricane as it sat over the Bahamas for nearly 48 hours straight. A Category 5 hurricane there. This family with their dogs trying to escape floodwaters chest high. And for the first time tonight, the staggering damage. Homes, cars, everything as far as you can see destroyed. And take a look at this image of Grand Bahama Island before the storm and then after Dorian. Much of the island underwater. Tonight, tropical force winds are battering the coast of Florida, waves whipping up on Juno Beach there as this slow mover now inches closer. And take a look at the storm track at this hour, the threat all the way up through North Carolina, closer than earlier tracks had it. We timed this out tonight, and ABC's Marcus Moore from the Bahamas, the scene of unimaginable destruction tonight.
Tonight, total devastation. The first images from above the Bahamas revealing the scope of the destruction and an emerging humanitarian disaster. Homes splintered, the trees stripped, and water everywhere. Hurricane Dorian finally moving on after stalling, spinning over these islands for more than 48 hours. Winds gusting to 220 miles an hour.
The devastation here is breathtaking. You can see that building behind me. It has collapsed, and look at this yacht on the ground resting up against this condo.
As the eye moves over Marsh Harbor and the winds calm, we heard screams and found 4 people surrounded by storm surge.
Swim! Swim! Keep going. Swim!
Our producer urging them to swim for their lives before the storm's howling winds pick up again, soon reaching safety of higher ground and rushing to shelter. The scenes playing out on multiple islands.
I'm coming.
In Freeport, a man, his daughter, and son braving the treacherous storm surge, fleeing their home while carrying their dogs through chest-deep water. That storm surge crashing against the glass on the 2nd floor of this building. Water racing in from the stairs to the floor below. The U.S. Coast Guard airlifting the injured and those with medical conditions to the capital, Nassau.
You can see a United States Coast Guard helicopter behind me. Another military aircraft helicopter. They've been running patients in and out. They've been rescuing from the Abacos.
Government officials saying there are areas first responders still cannot reach, and more than 60,000 will need food and clean water.
The islands, it is a dire situation. People are in desperate need of food and water, and they are hoping that that aid will come in sooner rather than later. David?
We hope so too. Marcus Moore in Nassau, Bahamas tonight. He has been there since before Dorian hit. Marcus, our thanks to you. And at this hour, Hurricane Dorian is now accelerating toward the U.S. coast, on track to ride the coastline from Florida up through the Carolinas. And the newest track has it actually coming closer to the U.S. than the earlier track. So let's get right to Chief Meteorologist Ginger Z. She's live in Jupiter Beach, Florida tonight. And Ginger, those punishing winds now reaching out further from the eye of the storm.
175 miles from the center of the storm. That's where we're feeling, David, those tropical storm force winds. We've had gusts around here to 60 miles per hour, but we are so grateful that that angry sea behind us is angry because it is taking the brunt of Dorian right now. So let's go ahead and look at the track. That thing's still looking like it's going to move northwest and eventually north. What becomes a problem is the coast of the United States juts out. So South Carolina and North Carolina will get far too close for comfort, if not a landfall by Friday morning in the Outer Banks. So let's go ahead and talk about timing. I think here we're going to see the most gusty winds yet tonight into the Treasure Coast. Daytona will take the brunt of it by tomorrow morning, seeing gusts somewhere around 50. And then watch as this thing by Wednesday night kind of settles in and edges into the corner there by Savannah, where the waves and the water is going to be piling up. Charleston on Thursday morning, you are going to be battered. 73-mile-per-hour gusts possible there. Getting windy in Myrtle Beach and Wilmington. And watch this too. By Friday morning, Outer Banks to Norfolk, Virginia, going to be feeling this. We'll finally get rid of it on Friday night. And don't forget, 4 to 7 feet of surge possible right there in South and North Carolina, David.
Ginger Z tracking it with us here again tonight. Thank you, Ginger. And as Ginger pointed out there, the danger now up through Florida and into the Carolinas. In fact, evacuation orders for more than 2 million people. We were at a hospital evacuating patients today. In Wrightsville Beach, homeowners and businesses boarding up ahead of the storm. The risks of staying behind seen right here. That wave crashing into a man in Palm Beach Shores, Florida. He was okay. ABC's Steve Osinsami is in the Charleston, South Carolina area tonight where those evacuations are underway. A very long week ahead there.
At Vibra Hospital in Charleston, they're racing to beat the storm, trying to move as many patients as they can to higher ground before Hurricane Dorian arrives. This patient is on his way in an ambulance tonight to a VA hospital 2 hours away.
We have 10 patients that are confirmed to leave today, and there will be others today.
Not everyone is healthy enough to be moved. David Eason is fighting a serious blood infection and will ride out the storm in his hospital bed.
They tell you to pack up and go if you can. Yeah. My situation, I can't.
They call this the low country for a reason. Flood-prone areas in the Carolinas and Georgia could be fighting several feet of storm surge by tomorrow night.
If you live in a residence that flooded over the last 4 years, you should evacuate your residence and move to higher ground.
In Savannah, families with little children and little means had to wait in the heat and long lines for a bus ride to safety.
Not everybody can pick up and leave, and I'm one of those people. I don't have a vehicle, and I don't have the finance to, to go out of town and rent a motel or anything like that.
Even to the south, where the waves are strong enough to knock you off your feet, they're watching for possible flooding. Authorities are trying to get the message out that as families leave for days, police will be watching their homes. Already, they've arrested this man accused of breaking into condos.
All right, Steve Osinsami with us. He's in the Charleston area outside that hospital tonight. And Steve, you were telling us they're trying to get all of their evacuations done by tomorrow?
Yes, David, the CEO of the hospital explains that he wants all of his people off the road and done moving patients by the time the first tropical storm force winds reach Charleston. Another thing, authorities are warning residents who choose to stay off the roads. They point out during last year's hurricane, they had to rescue more than 40 people from flooded vehicles, and they'd rather not do that again.
All right,
David?
Calm and dry there, but not for long, Steve. Thank you.
Breaking news tonight, bracing for Dorian's impact. The deadly storm moving dangerously close to Florida and Georgia on the heels of pummeling the Bahamas for 48 hours. The first images from above, the historic total destruction. Entire neighborhoods flattened, thousands of homes ripped apart, massive floods, urgent search and rescues underway. In the southeast, anxiety growing, the chances of a direct hit of the Carolinas rising. New evacuation orders, long lines trying to get out. Al Roker with the new track. Also breaking, the grim discovery. 20 bodies recovered from the boat that sank in flames, 14 others presumed dead. 5 members of the same family. Tonight, new images from inside the ship. How the victims were trapped in those final frantic moments. The major change at Walmart. New limits on gun and ammo sales, asking customers not to openly carry. The pointed reaction tonight from the NRA. Also tonight, on edge as students go back to school.
They also provide a place for a student to hide behind in hopes that help gets here.
Inside the $48 million school designed to stop active shooters.
This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
Good evening, everyone. Hurricane Dorian is finally on the move tonight after pummeling the Bahamas like few places have ever endured. The latest images painting a grim picture of surging ocean waters where dry land once existed and destruction virtually everywhere. Tonight, Dorian is marching up the southeast coast of the United States, menacing coastal communities from Florida to North Carolina, where we could still see a direct hit. Our team is spread out across the storm zone tonight, and we begin our coverage with Morgan Chesky in the hard-hit Bahamas.
Tonight, the Bahamas unrecognizable. The first images from above Abaco show an island paradise turned paradise lost.
Absolute devastation, and it really is heartbreaking. Just from the air, it looks completely leveled.
Debris fields for miles, houses surrounded by water, and boats littered across the island.
Abaco is gone.
With airports underwater, many relief efforts are now on standby. The island blasted with hurricane-force winds for nearly 2 days straight, and on neighboring Grand Bahama, record floods came fast. Satellite pictures show the island nearly swallowed up by the sea, a combination of storm surge and feet of rain as Dorian stalled over the island.
When this water is pouring in your house, and it's so surreal.
Local journalist Tim Allen and his family rushed out of their home, wading through chest-high water to survive.
And it was about a foot deep in about 30 seconds. And then after about 2 minutes, it was like up to our knees, and it just kept coming in.
Dorian's early numbers out of these two islands alone are staggering. 45% of the homes believed to be damaged or destroyed. More than 60,000 people will now need food and access to clean drinking water. With the weather finally clearing up, today's mission, search and rescue. All day long, a team of military helicopters have been making runs to Abaco Island, picking up the injured and bringing them back here to Nassau to receive much-needed medical treatment.
We have never experienced something like this in our life.
Adrian Archer treated some of the very first people to arrive.
I can tell this is hitting you.
It's my country. It's my people.
Tonight, Dorian's responsible for at least 5 deaths and dozens of injuries, as many on the islands remain cut off, still trapped, and left waiting for help to come. And tonight, I'm told those rescue efforts will be ongoing well into the night. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister will give a full update on the damage come later today. Lester?
All right, Morgan Chesky in Nassau tonight. Thank you. And as the hurricane inches away from the Bahamas, tonight it is moving dangerously close to Florida, bringing powerful winds and heavy rain. Gabe Gutierrez is in Jensen Beach, Florida. Gabe, what's going on there?
Lester, parts of the Florida coast are feeling tropical storm conditions, even though the eye of this hurricane is about 100 miles offshore. We are seeing extremely choppy surf and some bands of heavy rain, as well as wind gusts of more than 40 miles an hour here. Across the U.S., more than 1,800 flights were canceled today. About another 2,000 were delayed, many of them in the southeast. Still, many Florida residents are relieved that Dorian has delivered only a glancing blow, sparing them a direct hit, though some mandatory evacuations remain in effect farther up the coast. Lester?
All right, Gabe, thank you. And the threat to Georgia and the Carolinas is growing, especially from potential flooding, and that has many on the move tonight. Kristen Dahlgren is on the North Carolina coast for us this evening.
Is this one going in Stacey's car?
Mandatory evacuations now in full swing. From Florida to the Outer Banks of the Carolinas, more than 1 million people have already been ordered to leave. Concern over Dorian gripping the southeast coast. In Savannah, people lining up for a spot on a bus headed inland.
We want to make this as easy and comfortable for everyone as possible because we really do want people to get out of harm's way.
A massive response to the storm that's been shifting and stalling.
It's common sense to leave when you have the opportunity to leave.
In South Carolina, traffic lanes reversed to make way for more exiting cars. And to the north, tourists ordered off the barrier islands.
If it weren't an absolute get out today, we'd definitely try and give it a little bit more time.
Starting tomorrow, residents must make their way out too.
We know how frustrating, difficult, and sometimes costly evacuations can be, but the cost is so much greater with lives lost if people roll the dice and stay.
The storm surge and rainfall still major concerns because of potential flooding.
You never know what's going to happen, especially on the highways.
Things can change in a spare of a moment.
And tonight, officials really hope they start to see more people leaving across this bridge soon. There is just one main road along the Outer Banks, and officials worry it could flood, leaving people trapped if they don't evacuate soon, Lester.
Kristen Dahlgren, thank you. And now for where Dorian could be headed next, let's bring in Al Roker. Al, where is this storm heading?
Lester, Dorian's picking up forward speed, moving northwest at 6 miles per hour, 110 mile per hour winds, 125 miles east-southeast of Cape Canaveral, Florida. The track of the storm parallels the coast by Thursday morning off of Savannah, Charleston, and then it makes its way past Cape Hatteras, possibly making landfall sometime Friday and then continuing on. Here's what we're looking at as far as the impacts are concerned. We're talking tropical force winds that stretch out 175 miles from the center, so we'll be feeling those effects along the coast. That will cause storm surge anywhere from 2 to 4 feet in central Florida, coastal Jacksonville to Savannah, about 3 to 5 feet, 4 to 7 feet all the way to Cape Lookout, and rain is going to be possibly heavy, upwards of 15 inches of rain in some spots, Lester, but from Jacksonville to Cape Hatteras, generally 5 to 7 inches. The Florida coast, the Georgia coast, and the Carolinas all still have to be on a high alert.
All right, Al, thank you.
Tonight, Hurricane Dorian's on the move, picking up speed and growing larger. Right now, Florida facing tropical storm force winds, and why the newest track shows it's more of a threat to the Carolinas than ever before. Plus, a look at the utter devastation emerging from the Bahamas, a humanitarian crisis of epic proportions. Thousands of homes flattened. We'll tell you what's hampering the rescue and recovery efforts. Also tonight, new information on a tragedy at sea. 34 dead in a fire on a California dive boat. We're now learning some of the victims were students and an entire family. Breaking news, new gun rules for Walmart. Why the retailer plans to stop selling some ammunition and won't allow customers with guns in their stores. The crackdown on vaping expands. With severe cases of lung disease on the rise, 3 more states raised the legal age to buy e-cigarettes. How a tragedy brought bitter football rivals together to heal their community. And why Facebook may be unfriending your likes.
This is the CBS Evening News with Nora O'Donnell, reporting tonight from Cocoa Beach, Florida.
Good evening. This is our Western edition. And as we come on the air, Hurricane Dorian is here in Florida, lashing this coastal community. The beach was closed this afternoon, and authorities are urging people to shelter in place. Some counties have issued curfews with a dangerous storm surge forecast overnight. And tonight we're getting our first aerial look at the humanitarian crisis that is unfolding in the Bahamas. Look at these stunning images. This is actually Abaco Island. Homes are flattened as far as the eye can see. The official death toll is 5, but it is expected to go much higher. Abaco and Grand Bahama were pounded by Dorian for 2 solid days. The Red Cross says nearly half of the homes were damaged or destroyed. 62,000 people are without drinking water. Take a look at this photo. It shows a marina on Abaco before the storm. This shows it after, with boats scattered throughout the property. Tonight, Dorian is on the move. It is heading north and westward toward the U.S. coast at about 6 miles an hour. And it is growing larger. That's what's significant. This hurricane is about 100 miles offshore, and there are now hurricane force winds that extend 60 miles from the center. So it is getting very, very close. And new tonight, the storm's track shows it could still make landfall in the Carolinas. Watches and warnings now extend to the North Carolina-Virginia border. We'll have more on the forecast in just a moment, but we're going to begin with our first detailed look at the devastation in the Bahamas.
This is what 48 straight hours of hurricane force winds, 30 inches of rain, and a storm surge of as much as 23 feet can do. Massive devastation across the northern Bahamas, the Abacos flattened. The Red Cross reports thousands of homes are believed damaged or destroyed. Now comes the desperate search for survivors. So far, the official death toll stands at 5, but authorities expect that number to rise. Ingrid McIntosh lost her grandson.
My grandson dead. I just seen my grandson about 2 days ago. My grandson just tell me he loved me.
Much of the islands now resemble a wasteland. Homes torn inside out, cars destroyed, trees stripped and toppled, residential streets now rushing rivers.
The ocean is literally here. It's all around us.
Earlier today, Tim Aylen filmed himself and his family fleeing their Freeport home in dangerously rising waters, their dogs in tow, exhausted, fear in their eyes.
I know.
Major infrastructure has been rendered useless. The Grand Bahama Airport, for example, is underwater. And that's just one of the challenges rescuers face in the midst of such destruction. Coast Guard Captain Sean Cook is in Opelika, Florida.
I've never seen a storm that pauses and frustrates response operations like Dorian has.
Those operations are spotty. Some people are using jet skis and motorboats to rescue people. Families have turned to social media to connect with friends and relatives. Local rescue agencies say they won't be able to begin their work until tomorrow, but the U.S. Coast Guard says it has begun to fly in relief supplies.
We are concentrating very much on parts, fuel, people, communications gear, the very basics, foundational blocks that we need to continue conducting the response operations.
And our Nikki Batiste has just landed in the Bahamas. She spoke to us from NASA just a short time ago.
Nora, this is the General Aviation Facility at the Nassau Bahamas International Airport. This is the staging area for the Coast Guard as they bring people in from the Abaco Island. Conditions were really poor today, but they were able to bring back 5 people so far. As you can imagine, it's extremely dangerous to fly back and forth from here to the Abaco Islands. The Coast Guard is hoping the conditions improve tomorrow so that they can save many, many more lives. Nora?
All right, Nikki, thank you. And just about 90 miles down the coast from here in Jensen Beach, we're getting reports of strong winds and heavy rain. Janet Shamlian is there.
Nora, tropical storm force winds are battering this community. Bands of rain and gusts up to 55 miles an hour are churning the water here and sending it up right over the seawall. This is what Hurricane Dorian is delivering to Florida, even as the eye of the storm is 100 miles off the coast. At this hour, shelters in Palm Beach County remain open. Here in Martin County, the sheriff says that there are power outages and trees down related to the storm, and there is beach erosion up and down the coast of Florida. Here at Jensen Beach, there is a tropical storm warning still in effect, as well as a storm surge warning. Nora?
Janet, thank you. We're seeing that same beach erosion here, and the hurricane is wreaking havoc on airline schedules, shutting down one of America's busiest airports in Orlando. More than 1,400 flights were canceled today because of Dorian. So where is this storm headed right now? Let's bring in meteorologist Megan Glaros from WBBM in Chicago. Megan, what did we learn from this latest advisory?
Nora, what the good news out of this, I suppose, is that it's moving north now, away from the Bahamas. They're out of that eye wall. They are still getting impacts from Dorian, but it's moving away. For folks along the Florida coastline, like you and your crew, you're starting to get tropical storm force conditions out there, and that will continue through tonight into tomorrow. Right now, a Category 2 storm. Winds are at 110 miles per hour on this. It is moving now a little bit more, up to about 6 miles per hour on off to the north and west. And what I'm anticipating from this is that it does not make any sort of landfall along the Florida coastline, though it will impact everyone in the Sunshine State. We are watching for the potential for there to be a landfall maybe somewhere along the South or North Carolina coastline. So that's the next big game changer in terms of where this track will be. So let's take a peek at what that means for folks there, because we do know we're seeing tropical storm force gusts, which are already occurring across a large portion of Florida. Now could even see hurricane force conditions up across anywhere from Charleston north into North Carolina. Nora.
Megan, I want to ask you, I know that this is peak hurricane season, but what other storms are we potentially facing?
So active out there right now, Nora. Let me show you. For example, we've got Juliet, which is a Pacific hurricane. We've got another tropical storm right here for Nand. We've got Dorian, which we've been tracking. This is another area of possible development. This is tropical depression number 8, and there's yet another area off the coast of Africa. It's really just getting revved up. The actual peak, September 10th, Nora.
Sounds like we'll be talking a lot, Megan. Thank you. And don't forget, you can get updates on Hurricane Dorian around the clock by using our CBS News app. You can also find our streaming service, CBSN, at cbsnews.com. Now to Southern California, where the search for survivors was called off today, more than 24 hours after a scuba diving boat caught fire and sank. The Coast Guard today released dramatic video of the rescue effort. Investigators confirmed that dozens were trapped by the flames, leaving them with no chance to escape. 34 are feared dead. Jonathan Vigliotti is in Santa Barbara with new details about the victims.